Now, we're going to talk about this. So, we're going to get to Rodney King, that what we have in common. So, I'm going to explain to you. King was born in Sacramento, California in 1965, the son of Ronald and Adolpha King. He and his four siblings grew up in Altadena, California. King started attending John Muir High School from Austin and talked about being inspired by his social science teacher, Robert E. Jones. King's father died in 1984 at the age of 42. So, Rodney King was born April 2nd, 1965, during the Riots. And on November 3rd, 1989, King robbed a store in Monterey Park, California. He threatened the Korean store owner with an iron bar. King then hit the store owner with a pole before fleeing the scene. King stole $200 in cash during the robbery. He was caught and convicted to sentence to 2 years imprisonment. He was released on September 27, 1990, after serving 1 year in prison. King has a daughter and his girlfriend, Carmen Simpson. He later married Denita Light's cousin to rapper Mac 10, and has a daughter. King and Lyra are eventually divorced. He later married and had a daughter with Crystal Wallace. The marriage had ended in divorce also. So, now, which it is, earlier that morning on Sunday, May 3rd, 1991, King and his friends Brian Allen and Freddie Hims was driving a 1987 Honda XL west on Foothill Freeway at the Interstate 210 in the San Fernando Valley of Los Angeles. The three had spent the night watching basketball and drinking at his friend's house in L.A. At 12:30 a.m., Officer Tim and Merlene Singer, husband and wife, members of the California Highway Patrol, noticed King car speeded on the freeway, then pursued King with lights and sirens. With the pursuit reaches 117 miles per hour to 188 kilometers an hour. Later, King had refused to pull over. King later said he tried to outrun the police because of charges of driving under influence. So he was drunk. Pretty much, he was a drunk. Will violate his parole. So that's why he was running from the police, because he was drunk. And top of that, he was violating his parole, which is he's going to go back to jail and going to give him another 2 year to 2 years. So King, and from the robbery conviction, King left the freeway near Hampton Dam Recreation Arena area, and the pursuit continues through residential street and speeds through range of 55 to 80 miles per hour, 190 to 130 kilometers an hour, and thought that at least one red light. By the point, several cars, police cars, and police helicopters had joined in the officers, cornered King in the car. The first 5 Los Angeles LAPD officers was arrived at Stacy Coon, Lawrence Powell, Timothy Wynn, and Theodore Brasino, and Rolando Solano. So the beating had to his place. Officer Tim Singer ordered King and his 2 passengers to exit the vehicle and lay face down to the ground. Allen claimed that he was manhandled, kicked, stomped, and talked and threatened him and hit in the head while laying on the ground. He was treated at a luxuriation on top of his head. His bloody baseball cap was turning over to the police. King remained in the car while he emerged. When he was reported had gigs to have padded to the ground, and waves to the police helicopter over her. King grabbed his buttocks, which Officer Merlene Singer took to mean King to reach for the weapon. Though he was later found and unarmed, she drew her pistol and pointed at King, ordered him to get down on the ground. Singer approached the gun drawn, preparing to harass him. At the point, Kuhn, the ranking officer at the scene, told Singer that the LAPD was taking command and ordered all the officers to holster their weapons. According to the officer report, LAPD Officer Kuhn ordered the 4 officers, police at the scene, Briscoe Power, solo the wind, and subdue the handcuffed King using a technique called a swarm. While multiple officers grabbing the suspect with empty hands and overcome potential resistance quickly by standing to remove Officer Power and Briseno from his back, and 4 officers claimed King had resisted the claim that resisted them. King denied the restrict. The officers later testified that they believed King was under influence of PCP, because they claiming that he was on PCP, but he had a drink. Right? He had a drink. Although King's toxicology tested negative for the drug, so he had no drugs in him. He was only drinking. At the point, Holiday video recorded showed that King on the ground, that being tased by Kuhn, he rises and rushes towards Powell and argue in court that either they attack Powell or to flee, and King with the baiting with King, and King had knocked to the ground. Powell strikes King several more times with his Baltoon. Briseno moved in, attempted to stop Powell from striking again. When Powell stand back, Kuhn reported, said, stop, that's enough. So they was jumping on him already. They was whooping his ass. Already. They was beating him up already, most likely. So that's enough. King rises again on his knee. Powell and Wynn are seen hitting King with their billy clubs. Batons. But I call it billy clubs too. That's the same thing. But they call it batons. Kuhn acknowledged the order to continue using the batons. Directly Powell and Wynn strike King with power strokes. According to Kuhn, Powell and Wynn used bursts to power Kuhn the strokes, then back off, and officers beating King in the videotape. King continued to try to stand again. Kuhn ordered the officers to hit his joints, hit the wrist and his elbow, hit his knees and hit his ankles. Officer Wynn, Briseno, and Powell attempt numerous baton strikes on King, resulting in some misses, out with 33 blows hitting King plus 7 kicks, and officers again swarmed King, but at the time, at total 8 officers was involved in the swarm. King was placed in handcuffs and cord cuffs, restraining his arm and legs. King dragged to his abdominal to the side of the road and wait for arrivals of emergency rescue to come. It says plumbing salesman of amateur videographer George Holiday videotape of the beating was shot on camcorder from his apartment near the intersection of Foothill Boulevard and Osborne Street in Lakeview Terrace. 2 days later, Holiday called LAPD headquarters at Parking Center to let the police department know that he had a videotape of the incident. Still, he could not find anyone interested of seeking the videotape. He went to KTLA television with his recorded holiday, whose video camera was in another part of his residence, and David to retreat until the officers are already in the act of beating King. The foolish as the whole become the instant media sensation. Portions of aired numerous times, and it turned what was otherwise has been a violent but soon forgotten encounter between the Los Angeles Police Department and a cooperative suspect into one of the most widely watched and discussed incident of its kind. Certain cop watch organizations sustainably throughout the United States to safeguard against police abuse, including an umbrella group. October 22nd, declaration to stop police brutality. So it was a protest going on with police brutality. So it was going against police brutality now. Because all those beatings he had. Beating this man to death. Trying to beat him to death. So, on September 21st, 2021, Holiday died of COVID-19 compilation at the hospital in Los Angeles. So the guy that started the videotape passed away from COVID. And it was coincidence that everything had happened. So Rodney King passed away June 17, 2012. He was the African American man who was the victim of a LAPD police brutality around March 3rd, 1991. He was beaten by LAPD officers during his arrest after a high-speed chase of driving while intoxicated of the Interstate 210. During involvement individually, George Holiday filmed the whole thing. And from nearby balcony and sent to the foolish of KTLA. The foolish beating of the unarmed man, Rodney King, been beaten to the ground. He had no gun. He insisted in the rest. They was beating this man again, gave him a bunch of stenches with billy clubs. So, at the press conference, the LAPD chief Daryl Gates announced that the 4 officers involved of the discipline were used to exceed forces of 3 will face criminal charges. The LAPD initiated charged King with the felony, evading, and later charges had dropped. On his release, he spoke to reporters from his wheelchair with his injuries, broken right leg in a cast, his face badly cut, swole, bruised on his body, and burn area to his chest, where he had joints of the stun gun. He described how he had needed spread his hands out and slowly tie and move as not making any stupid moves. Being hit across a face with billy clubs and shock. He said he was scared of his life as they drew down on him. So the 4 officers actually tried to charge and use their excessive force. Of these 3 was acquitting of Julia Fail, reaching a verdict of 1 charge for the 4th within hours of the Quattretails, the 1992 LA riots started sparking an outrage among racism, started all these related crimes and everything like that all happened. The trial verdict, the related long-standing social issue, overlaid the tension between the African American and Korean American communities. The riot lasted 6 days and killed 63 people, with 2,383 more injured, and ending only in California Army National Guard of the Army as well as the Marine Corps provide reinforcement and detachment control. So now they want to bring the Army out here now. They can't afford, they got tired of it, so they have to bring the Army out here now. They have to bring out the Army. So one was on the roof at the gauge swap meet on Gage in Vermont. That's when they had the gauge swap meet at the time in around 1992 when they had the riots. They pulled out on Florence and Normandy when they burnt down the first liquor store. They dragged a white lady out of a truck, 18-wheeler truck, and they beat her up to death, almost. So she had to be in the hospital. I don't know how many stitches she had. So now, the federal government prosecutes to separate civil rights case, obtaining grand jury indictment of the 4 officers in a violation of King's civil rights. Their trial in the federal district court ended in April of 1993, lasted a year, with 2 of the officers being found guilty and sentenced in served prison terms. The other 2 were acquitted of the charges in the separate of the lawsuit in 1994 of the jury found in the city of Los Angeles liable of rewarding King $3.8 million in damage. So he been rewarded. So when they made the riots, they made the movie Riots in 1997. It's stemming to this right here. And it was all happened or whatever. So King was taken to Pacific Hospital after his arrest and was later found with suffering fracturing bone, for broken right ankle, multiple bruises and lacerations of negligent claim found in the city. King was allergic. He had suffered 11 skull fractures. Permanent brain damage. I'm shocked. I had to do that one. Broken bones and teeth, kidney failure, emotional, physical trauma, blood and urine samples was taken from King 5 hours after his arrest. Blood alcohol, the BAC, with King's sample was 0.075%, indicating that he was legally intoxicated under California law BAC. The legal limit is 0.08. So you don't supposed to pass 0.08%. You cannot get too drunk. So he was drinking. That's why they did this peeing sample. The test would show traces of marijuana, 26 ng milliliters. Pacific Hospital nurse reported that the officers had a complicated King, including wind, openly joked and bragged about the number of times he hit King. So he was bragging about how many times he hit Rodney King. Officers obtained King's identification from his clothes pocket at the time. King was later sued the city of Los Angeles for damages, and jury awarded him $3.8 million as well as $1.7 million in attorney fees. And the city did not pursue charges against King for driving intoxicated to leave arrest, so they threw the case out. The district attorney, Ira Rennell, believed that it was suffering evidence of prosecution. His sued Gil Garcetti due that December 1992, too much time he had passed to charge King when inventing the arrest, and also noted that the statute of limitation was on a drunk driver had passed. So they threw it out. So they threw it out. So the thing is that he was intoxicated. So now, on Father's Day, June 17, 2012, King's partner, Sidney Kelly, found dead underwater at the bottom of the swimming pool. King died 28 years later. On the day after his father, Rodney King, has been found dead in the bathtub in 1984. Police in Riots received 911 for the Kelly at about 5:25 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, Daylight Time. Responding officers to remove King from the swimming pool and reinforce CPR and still pulseless. He was transferred to an advanced to support ambulance where paramedics attempt to receive him. He was transported to Arrowhead Medical Center in Colton, California, when he pronounced dead around September 11th. On 6/11. I'm sorry, 6/11 Pacific time. The Rialto police began standing, drowning investigation as there was not appears of foul play. On August 23rd, 2012, King autopsy results were released, stating that he died from accidental drowning and combination of alcohol and cocaine and PCP found in his system. Found in his system were contributing factors of where cardiomyopathy and focal myocardial fibrosis. The conclusion that report stated that the effect of the drugs and alcohol combined with the substance heart condition, probably precipitated cardiac edema, and hypothermia. I try to pronounce that word there. And the subject incapacitated in the water and unable to save himself. Al Sharper delivered a urology. The King's funeral was inherited in Forest Lawn Park Memorial in Los Angeles, California. So, Rodney King been through a whole lot, which is his father, Ronald King, died at 84. So he been grieving a lot. So he been doing a lot of drinking, a lot of doing drugs. He was doing a lot of stuff. And Rodney King was little when his daddy passed away. So you think everything is not like it used to be with this guy. Like I said, Rodney King brought a whole lot of history of the 30-year anniversary on Everything Happens. So that's it for now. So bye for now. And hope again, we might talk about it again next day. Bye-bye. Bye for now.